This might be the odd episode out. It might not be as long as the other one because today we are talking about my D'Angelico XLDC. We might veer off the timeline a little bit in my story because around the time I got this guitar, there wasn't a lot of change. This wasn't one of those bigger milestones like I had with my other guitars. We'll save the next big milestone for the Gretsch back there, but that's to come. At this point, I had the trifecta. I had the Les Paul, I had the Telecaster, and I had the Stratocaster. And I was just like, I got everything I need to play, right? But it was around this time that I had been practicing, my skills kept growing, and I was growing more confident in my playing. I had mentioned with the Stratocaster that I was working on production skills and recording, and so just all these facets are, I'm just continuing to work on those same skills and getting better at those. So this one I actually found, like most of my other guitars, at a good deal, Facebook Marketplace, shout out Facebook Marketplace, here in town, and it was just in pristine condition. So let me go just quickly over the specs. They're stock. So this is the D'Angelico XLDC, and as it came from the factory is how it stands today. You'll kind of notice that as a trend, I don't really do a lot of modifications. I know a lot of guitarists are big into changing pickups, tuners, that kind of thing. But for me, unless there's a dire need, like it won't stay in tune, or it's just really, really bad sounding, I can't get a good sound out of it, I just go with what's there and do my playing on what's there. So as I said, I had the trifecta there, and I started looking at more worship context influences, right? I talked about Slash with the Les Paul. I talked about John Mayer and Stevie Ray Vaughan with the Strat. But here, as I kept growing in my playing, I wanted to just keep growing in church and in the ministry that I just loved serving in, right? That was my whole goal. That was my whole point of why I picked up the guitar. And at this point, had invested so much in different guitars and equipment. So, you have your big hitters, your Hillsongs, your Elevations, your Bethels, and your Red Rocks, and so forth. And so I just started doing just a big analysis of, what do all these guys play? And one common trend that seemed to just pop out was the semi-hollow type of guitars. And for those that may not know, semi-hollow, usually when you see these F-holes, they're usually hollow, semi-hollow. So this is a semi-hollow. And I was just noticing that just tended to be the tonal palette that a lot of worship guitarists was going for. And so when I looked at my arsenal, as beautiful as it was, I was like, you know what? I don't have something that's semi-hollow like that, or, with the humbuckers. I had the Tele, which I talked about. I had swapped between two Teles, but nothing like what I had been seeing played on these stages. And so thankfully, like I said, I found this deal here in town, and once I could save up for it and scoop it up, I did. So this guitar, although not a huge milestone like the other ones in my playing or church life, for me signifying just a tonal palette change, just understanding or trying to understand just how different guitars can sound differently, right? At the end of the day, I think it's in the hands and the fingers first and foremost. But the guitars, the specs, they do change your tone. And so this one marks the beginning of trying to experiment with different tones. And that'll lead to some of the other conversations we've had with some of the guitars you'll see behind me. But that was where I had my bases covered. The Tele, the Strat, the Les Paul. So now I felt I could experiment and just go out of the traditional, right? So as I was recording more and trying to emulate tones on a Sunday, I realized, kind of like a toolbox at home, right? You need your wrench, you need your hammer, you need your flatheads, and so forth. That was kind of how I felt at that time. I was like, okay, I have the trifecta, now I got this, boom, there's nothing I can't play. This is, I would say, probably a lesser known brand, and I think I am one of the few guys here in town, at least that I know, that actually plays the D'Angelico brand. So I actually have another one, and that's the orange one that you see there. We'll talk about that one as well. But I just, when I got this, I liked it so much, just the way the neck felt and everything, that I wasn't scared to pull the trigger the other one. And so this was really my introduction to not just a new type of tone, but also a new brand of guitar and body style. You know, it's a little hard to portray over camera, but this is a wide body. And so when I'm playing here, you know, it's a little higher than the rest of the guitars. So I had to get used to playing just a different type of guitar compared to the other one. And so again, not the hugest milestone, but something a little different than what I was used to. So you could almost call this stage in my playing the tonal changing era. Something for the Swifties. I guess I'll talk a little bit about not necessarily an influence, but someone that I use to kind of justify having this guitar, and that would be B.B. King. If you know anything about B.B. King, he played a semi-hollow, bigger style guitar like this. I can't remember exactly if it was a 335 or 339 or I'll have to look it up. But, you know, it was a guitar like this. And so when, of course, blues, I loved blues, John Mayer blues, Stevie Ray Vaughan blues, you know, the influences were already there. And so when I came on to B.B. King and just his playing and everything, I was like, yo, this guy is amazing. And he doesn't use a Telecaster, a Stratocaster, or a Les Paul. He uses this, something like this. And so I was like, I guess it's okay for me to have, because whenever I play blues, I'll have it. But yeah, this guitar, it was kind of just on a whim. You know, there wasn't a real purpose like I had with the other ones where, you know, I was trying to search for something or just trying to expand a different skill or something like that. It was a great deal. I saw it and then it came home with me. But I should give it more love. I'm going to be completely transparent. I should play this more. I really don't know why I don't. Oh, I remember actually. So for the longest time, so when I first got it, like soon after I got it, I don't know, maybe within the first couple months, the electronics just started to go bad. I don't know if it was faulty wiring or rust or something from the previous owner, but it wasn't reliable on Sundays when I needed it to be, specifically with the pickup selector. Like I would go to the bridge pickup and the signal would just shut off because there wasn't a connection to the pickup. But you know, I'd go back to the bridge and then it was on. And then the next song, I'd go to the bridge and it'd work, but then the neck wouldn't turn on. So it was just this back and forth where on any given Sunday, I just couldn't rely on it for the longest time. So that's probably on me to not get it fixed sooner, but I probably didn't have money to get it fixed at the time, you know, to take it to a luthier or just someone in town. And I am not handy whatsoever. So that's something, I am not handy. And so when it comes to fixing my guitars, I could do the bare minimum basics, but you know, just like anything else, go on YouTube, try to watch a tutorial, try not to break the guitar. But at the time, I didn't want to risk it, especially on the newest guitar in my collection. So it was a while before I decided to go get it fixed. And I did want to play, and so that's what led me to go get it fixed. But it's great now. So this video will probably serve as a reminder to play her more. I will say it has a naturally darker tone than my other guitars. Even now, even with all the other ones that I have, it's still probably, as I look around and double check myself, it's still probably my darkest sounding guitar. And so that may contribute, as well as not getting fixed for a long time, as to why I haven't played it often as I should. Because usually in worship, I like the brighter, chimier sound. And so it's harder for me to get this. I'd have to do a lot of adjusting on my signal routing, whether it's the pedals or the modelers, which I can do, but then just playing week after week and sometimes several times a week, it would be a lot for me anyway, to change all the settings, then, you know, switch back to the Strat or something like that, and then change the settings again, because then at that point it's probably going to be too bright because I've brightened it to help with this darker guitar. So that's probably another reason that it doesn't get played as often. So there's not really much else to say about this guitar. Church was going great. I was still in a leadership position and just managing rehearsals like I've talked about in some of these other episodes. I was working on production skills. I was working on getting better at the guitar and live playing, you know, with the effects and the helix like I've talked about. So I'll dare to say this was really just a happy accident that I came across this guitar because it wasn't something initially that I seeked. It has not left, even though it's one of my earlier guitars, it has not left, and I've never considered selling it. It's such a beautiful guitar, and I don't play it enough, but it's such a beautiful guitar that when I see it there, I'm like, I know I would regret selling it. This one's probably going to stay with me too for forever. So I'm not mad about it.